Hi and welcome to the channel. My name is Tony, and in today's video we're going to set up the Grandstream UCM 6302 so that it could send and receive calls to and from the outside world. This is the third video in the Learning as I Go series. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and be sure to hit that little bell so that you're alerted to when I release new content. So we're going to need a couple of things to get this to work. One, we're going to need an account with the SIP or a VoIP provider and a plan. I use a pay-as-you-go plan with Flow Route, but we'll talk about that in a few. Next, we're going to need on the UCM a trunk, an inbound route, and an outbound route. So now, looking at my desktop, you can see I'm signed into my Flow Route account, and I've been using Flow Route for the last 4 years with my free PBX installation. Although I have the box unplugged right now, that's why you could see here under active SIP registrations, it says you have no active registrations. Now, I'm not worried about unplugging my business PBX for the purpose of this video because I have a failover route set up with Flow Route that if the service cannot reach the on-premise PBX, it will just fail over and send all the calls to my cell phone. So I'm not missing any calls while making this video. So there are a couple of pieces of information you're going to need from your provider. And now I just want to say I am not affiliated with Flow Route. They just happen to be the provider that I chose 4 years ago. They had a pay-as-you-go plan, which works well for me. It did then and it still does now. Do your homework, do your due diligence, and do some research on selecting a VoIP provider. Go with what is best for your environment. Now that said, let's go back to the video. I'm going to click on registration, and you'll see here there's some bits of information that we need to get from the provider so that we could set up the trunk on the UCM. So we're going to need our username and our password, and then we're going to need a host name. So we're going to select from the list of available hosts, and I'm going to select the United States East Virginia region. So let me copy that. And let's jump over into our UCM. Okay, so we're on the dashboard of the 6302. And if you just look over here in this area on the right side, you can see under trunks, we don't have any available trunks set up. So let's set up the trunk now. We'll come over to the left menu. Let's click on VoIP trunks, and we're going to come up here and we're going to say add a SIP trunk. For the type, we're going to go ahead and select register SIP trunk. We have to give it a provider name, and you can see from the list of providers available if your provider is actually here. Now, Flow Route happens to not be in the list, so I'm just going to type in the name, Flow Route. Here under host name, I'm going to paste that URL from that US Virginia region, East Virginia region. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to have to put in the username and the password. So let's jump back over to our provider and get that information. So let me copy first the username. And we'll put that in here and we'll jump over and get the password. And we'll paste it in where it says password. So now we have all of the information that we need to set up the trunk. So let's come up and hit save. And it just gives you a message here that says if the host is not a numeric IP address, but the port number is present in the URL, the UCM performs an A or AAAA record lookup for the domain name. Just go ahead and click OK. And then make sure you come up here and apply the changes. If you're getting any value from today's content, please hit that like button. It lets YouTube know that you like what we're doing here on the channel. Now that said, let's get back to today's video. Okay, now that the changes have been applied, let's come up to the system status and let's go back to the dashboard. And you can see here now in the area where it says trunks, we have one trunk, it's Flow Route, and we have a blue circle, which is good. That means the trunk is available, so everything went well with the trunk setup. So now that we have the trunk set up, let's create an inbound route so that we can begin accepting calls from the outside world. So that said, let's come over to the left menu once again. Let's click on extension trunk, and then select inbound routes. Here, just simply go up and click on the blue add button. You can see that the UCM automatically selected the flow route trunk that we set up. And that's because it's the only trunk in the system. If you had multiple trunks, you'd be able to select the trunk you want from the drop-down list. Under call pattern, this is going to be a really simple inbound route. I'm just going to tell the UCM to accept all incoming calls. And I'm going to do that with a X, which is any number from 0 to 9, and then a period, which is a wildcard. Now, I happen to know that flow route puts a plus sign in front of the DID, so I'm going to just do the same thing, but add a plus sign before it. So now I know that the UCM will accept all incoming calls, but where are they going to go, right? So we have to set a destination, and we're just going to use the default mode for now for this video. We could do another video on the other modes, but for right now, we're just going to set up the default mode. We're not going to do any time conditions or anything like that. In fact, do another video where we're going to talk a little bit further about the incoming routes and some of the other features. But for now, we just want to set a destination for the incoming calls. So let's click on it, and you can see the different choices here. You can go to an IVR, you can go to a voicemail group, but we're just going to select an extension, and we're just going to leave it set to extension 1000, which is the 2135 that I have set up here to my left. Now that we have all that in place, let's just come up and click on the Save button. And then remember to always apply changes. Okay, so we forgot to give the inbound route a name. So let's just go back into the edit area, and let's just call this inbound all. Basically accepting all inbound routes. I just got to watch for my fat fingers. There we go. And we're going to click on Save and then Apply Changes. Okay, so let's take a minute to review. We set up our trunk so we have connectivity. The system has connectivity to the outside world, right, to a provider. We set up an inbound route so that we can accept calls through the provider from the outside world. Now we just have to set up the outbound route so that we can make outgoing calls to the outside world through our provider. So that being said, let's come over to the left menu and click on outbound routes. And then just like with the inbound calls, let's come up with the inbound routes. Let's come up and click on the blue add button. And here we're going to give the route a name. I'm not going to forget this time. In fact, it's a required field. I'm going to call it outbound all. For the pattern, I'm going to do the same patterns that I did in the inbound routes, again, because I just want this to be a system that'll let all calls go out. So we're going to just do X followed by the wildcard. And then again, because I know flow route uses the plus sign before the DID, I'm going to just do plus the X followed by the period. Now, let's come over to this area here and talk about the privilege level for a second. You can see it's set to disable. If I click on the drop-down menu, you have 4 choices: internal, local, national, and international. Now, my first thought when I saw this was, oh, okay, so allow users to make internal calls only, allow users to make local, regional calls, allow users to make long distance, and allow users to make international calls. But it's not that. It's simply a permissions hierarchy. So what do I mean by that? When we ran the setup wizard in the first video, we told the system to create 5 extensions at that point. When it created those extensions with a permission level of local. So, therefore, if I want any of those extensions to be able to use this outbound route, I have to make sure I set the permission level to at least local, so those extensions can make an outbound call. If I select national and the extensions that I want to be able to make calls are set to local, then those extensions will not be able to use this outbound route. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, that being said, and that's the simplest way of putting it, Let's go back to the privilege level and let's just click on local so that we know that our extensions will be able to use this route. We'll come over to this area here. We're not going to do anything else with this stuff here, but we are going to come down to the main trunk and we're going to tell the outbound route to use the flow route SIP trunk. Now, I need to also with flow route append the number 1 to the outgoing calls. So basically, if you're dialing, let's say area code 555-212 and then 3344 as the number, the system will send it out to the provider as 1-555-212-3344 or whatever the number is. It will add the 1 and send it out to the provider that way. Now, we also have the option of adding a failover trunk, which is a good idea. I just don't have one at this point in time, so we're just not going to do that. So let's see. We have our name, we have our call patterns, we have our privilege level selected, and then we have our trunk selected, and I know I have to prepend the system to add the 1 to the outgoing call. So we're going to come up and we're going to click on Save. And then again, don't forget to apply the changes. If you're getting any value from today's content, please hit that like button. It lets YouTube know that you like what we're doing here on the channel. Now that said, let's get back to today's video. Okay, time to make a few test calls now that everything is set up. I'm going to call my business phone number from my cell phone. Now don't forget, I'm using my actual business SIP provider for the purpose of this video. So I have the 2135 extension 1000 in front of me. I have my cell phone, so let me go ahead and call from my cell phone to my business. When you can hear the 2135 is ringing. Hello? And we do have audio. Excellent. So we have a successful call from the outside world. So now let's call from the 2135 from the business phone out to my cell phone. And I'm dialing a 10-digit number. The system will append the 1 like we set up in the outbound route.
Unknown caller.
You can see the cell phone is ringing. Hello? And we do have audio. So if you found any value in today's video, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to check out some of my other videos listed up above. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this video. And as always, I want to thank you for using my Amazon affiliate links. I know they don't change your price, but they do help out the channel. My name is Tony with Quik Tech Solutions as always. Please stay safe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.